Hello, my name is Redacted. And I'm just kidding. Hello, my name is Barby. And if you've been here before, you probably know that we usually talk about some spooky stuff, some weird stuff, etc. Now, today's video is not going to be as weird, but I guess that also depends on your perspective. It could be really weird that somebody who dresses like this and wants to talk about all this stuff is also a Disney adult, but I am. I grew up on Disney. I grew up in a family that really loves Mickey Mouse, to the point where a lot of the stuff in my house is decorated with mouse decor. My front yard used to be incredibly decorated with all this Disney stuff. That's not really a thing anymore, but that's a story for another time. The point is, I was raised on Disney. I absolutely love Disney. I've seen pretty much every Disney movie, though admittedly not as many of the new ones because I am pretty sad that they switched to entirely CGI. Again, that's a video for another time. So, obviously, a part of me loving Disney so much is the fact that I used to go to Disney World every year when I was a kid. If I didn't go a certain year, I would go the next year, so at least every other year. My family really made it a point to take the kids to Disney because it was just so much fun and so uplifting. And honestly, even when I did start to get older and into my high school years, I still loved going, and there's nothing I wouldn't do to be able to go right now. But that doesn't look like it's happening in the foreseeable future, so for now, I guess I'll settle for just talking about it. So, today I'm going to rank all 4 Walt Disney World parks. I'm going to start with my least favorite, and I'm going to go up to my most favorite. However, I'm also going to tell you guys what I think the best things to do in those parks are. So if you are one of those lucky souls that gets to go to Disney World anytime soon, maybe you'll know what it is you want to do first. I haven't been to Disney World since I was 17. That's been a few years now, and I miss it pretty much every day. I really love going, even despite the Florida heat. I've never been to Disneyland or any of the other Disney parks, but I do have it on a bucket list that those are things I also want to do eventually in my lifetime. However, I am extremely grateful for all the times I got to experience Walt Disney World, as it is the biggest Disney park, and it has 4 main side theme parks, which all have enough to do multiple days in, except for one, which I'm going to get to. And I often find myself ranking them in my head, like if I only had one day in Disney, where would I spend it? And I do know how to answer that question, but I'll start at where I would not spend it. So, my least favorite Disney park would have to be Hollywood Studios. And that's not to say that it's not great, because the old Hollywood 1940s charm in that park is a vibe, to be quite honest with you. It is all-encompassing, and it really makes you feel like you're in old Los Angeles. It really makes you feel like you're in one of those 40s style dance old movies, and that's a pretty irreplaceable feeling. I've never really been to another place that has that theme or gives off that energy, so I can really appreciate it. I would say probably my favorite thing about this park is its vibe, is its theme, is the way it makes you kind of nostalgic for a time you might have never even known, but it's so easy to get comfortable in it. So I did put this at the bottom of my list for a couple of reasons. One, if you're not really a fan of thrill rides, the most that you're going to be able to do here are shows. And they go on a schedule, and they're all pretty short. So they don't really take up that much time, and though the productions are very good, and they're so fun, and they're a great experience to have, it's almost as though if you really want to go on rides or really immerse yourself in that kind of atmosphere, this isn't really the place to go. So the Tower of Terror is fantastic. It's probably the landmark of Hollywood Studios at this point. For those of you who don't remember, that used to be the Sorcerer Mickey hat, which has since been retired for reasons unbeknownst to me, because that's how I always, when I thought about Hollywood Studios in my head, that's the first thing that would always pop up. But now, that is no more. There have been a lot of changes being made to Walt Disney World, and that was one of the ones that I was very upset about. So I think that now, if you were to have a landmark for Hollywood Studios, it would probably be the Tower of Terror, which is its most popular ride. And the aesthetic of the Tower of Terror is really great. It's based around the Twilight Zone and a specific episode of the Twilight Zone in which an elevator fell and everybody, as you can guess, tumbled to their untimely deaths. So, although I do really like this ride, the thing is, I'm not a fan of huge drops. So The aesthetic behind it is there, the art is all there, but going on it kind of makes me a little bit queasy. So you can see how, since I can't really ride the main attraction in the park, it's not necessarily my favorite place to go when I do go to Walt Disney World. The Rock and Roller Coaster, on the other hand, which is probably the second biggest attraction in the park, is a great time. So this ride is not for everyone. It has sudden corkscrews, like it has sudden corks, and you go upside down, quite literally. I remember when I was little, I used to think I was gonna fall out of the damn thing because it just goes so fast and it twists you and turns you all which ways, but there's no sudden drops, which really made me appreciate it a lot more. So I love the Rock and Roller Coaster. I can't go on the Tower of Terror, but that might be just because I'm very, very scared of heights. But given this, for someone like me, there's not really much to do in the park. And even if it were just, you know, going on those two rides, they're pretty quick. I mean, the Rock and Roller Coaster isn't any more than a minute long, and it can't really be because it goes 90 miles per hour. The Tower of Terror, again, has to be brief, especially given that you're falling over and over and over, and that's really all there is to it besides the theme of the ride. So when I used to go to Disney World, there was an attraction called the Great Movie Ride at Hollywood Studios. It was fashioned after the Chinese Theater in California, and I used to love that ride. It was a boat ride through all the classic movies of various times, various decades, and it went all the way from, say, Casablanca to The Wizard of Oz, and you got a couple of gangster movies in there, and Alien. It was a lot of fun, and I really loved every minute of it, but of course, it's not there anymore, so there's that. So they have replaced it since with a Mickey and Minnie roller coaster. I'm actually very interested in checking this out, but I haven't been back, so I haven't really had an opportunity to. Maybe I will like it just as much, but I don't know. So for now, I'll still sit here and I will mourn the loss of my precious Great Movie Ride. So, like I said, it's not that Hollywood Studios isn't worth it. It's very charming. It has this great show called Fantasmic, even though I'm fairly certain Fantasmic is going into retirement soon. Yet another reason that I've placed this at the bottom of the list. But I did say there were going to be things about each park that I highlight, so since my favorite ride was taken from me here, I would say the highlight for me of Hollywood Studios is actually a restaurant called 50's Primetime Cafe. When you go in there, they sit you down and they treat you like your kids at a 1950s dinner table, which means if you don't finish your food, the staff is gonna punish you. They'll embarrass you. I went there with my family once and they made my grandmother sing I'm a Little Teapot in front of everybody. It was hilarious and just a really awesome time. It is worth noting that I'm not sure how much of the humiliation they still do, but when they did it when I was there, everybody was laughing. The whole restaurant was laughing, just having a great time. So I think that that's definitely something worth checking out. So my third favorite, this was actually pretty hard and I had to spend a while thinking about this one because I didn't know where to place these two. They were so neck and neck, but I think I finally got it. But this is based mostly on memories and nostalgia. My third favorite is gonna have to be Animal Kingdom. I really love Animal Kingdom. In fact, I would venture to say I probably have more fun in Animal Kingdom than I do in Epcot, but it still just does not offer as much for a full day. Animal Kingdom is incredibly scenic. There's beautiful nature everywhere. There's animals everywhere you turn. There's exhibits where you can see these animals. And there's even a mock safari ride that will take you face to face with all the real animals. So it's really awesome. Half of it is fashioned after old Africa and the other half of it is fashioned after old Asia, like ancient Asia, like Mount Himalaya type situation. And Animal Kingdom is non-stop fun, really. The lines are huge. They tend to be really, really big here. And back a while ago, the park used to close really early for the welfare of the animals. I think they've since found a way to not close it as early. I'm not totally positive, but you really had to scramble to kind of do your stuff there. Luckily, there isn't too much in your way in Animal Kingdom. Like, you can get through it if you really, really want to, but I would always recommend an early start as you're gonna have to do a lot of walking here specifically. It's worth it though. It's worth it. It's a ton of fun. You really do feel like you're in the jungle the whole time you're here, and it is completely immersive. So I actually have a few favorites here, but if I had to pick one attraction that I really love the most, it's definitely Dinosaur. I've always loved Dinosaur. This is a really polarizing ride because some people get very sick on it. It is really heavy on the twists and turns of motion. Although it's not a roller coaster, it does whip you around quite a bit. And there are a lot of jump scares. If you're afraid of giant reptiles, this is not for you. Dinosaur is not for you. The T-Rex very much gets right up in your face. It takes pictures of you from up high, down below. There's dinosaurs everywhere coming out of places you didn't even expect. And it all happens in this shaking, rattling time rover that you've been given because you're on a journey to find a specific dino for a mad scientist. It's a ton of fun, but it's not for everyone, and I've heard a lot of people say that they felt really sick or really scared after this ride. I cannot relate. I could literally go on Dinosaur 1,000 times and not be bored. I understand why it overstimulates some people, especially with the amount of flashing lights and the asteroid simulations. I'm sure you could put the picture together, but I think if you really love thrill rides, it's great and it's super worth it. Obviously, I love Expedition Everest. It's not my favorite though, all because there's a certain point where the Yeti at the top of the Himalayan mountain rips the track off, so you have to go backwards. Now, every time this ride goes backwards, I feel my brain rattle in my skull a little bit, and I never leave it without a headache. So, but it is so fun. It's apparently the biggest drop in Walt Disney World, although I will say you won't really feel it as much as you will the other drops because it's not straightforward. It's kind of more twisty-turny than that. But I love it. I think it's so worth the wait on the line because the line, you get to go through a whole exhibit about Yetis and the history of the mountain. So that is pretty cool. But the other ride I want to highlight is Kali River Rapids. Especially in the Florida heat, it does really help to get yourself like absolutely soaked in freezing water. Who knows where the water's been, but that doesn't really matter because when it's that hot out, all you want is a release, and it's a fun one. It is a fun one full of ancient memorabilia and just so many goddamn waterfalls. If you are feeling the heat, this is a great way to really get it off of you. And I thought it was just so worth it. Every time I remember I'd be so excited to go on the rapids. It's pretty much Disney's more advanced log flume. And I think that you really shouldn't go to Animal Kingdom with passing that up. I mean, even if you hate water, you're gonna be desperate to cool down, trust me. So that brings me to my second favorite Disney park, which is Epcot. And like I said before, it's not even really that I had more fun at Epcot than I do at Animal Kingdom, because I don't. But Epcot is so expansive, it's just so much bigger, and it's loaded with a lot more of my memories, so I think it has a slightly more special place in my heart. Although Epcot, you know, it does have some things that make me kind of feel meh about it. I'll get to that though. So it's split into two parts. There is World Showcase and Future World. Future World is more of a sci-fi type of concept. It's more so focused on technological advancements and the future, robots, outer space, things like that. Whereas World Showcase has little miniature versions of a lot of world countries where you can go and kind of feel like you're in that country for a little bit. So I much prefer World Showcase because Future World gets very old very quickly. There really is not that much to do. If you're a little kid, it's different because little kids will really love the Innovations Pavilions. Those are pretty much like advanced playrooms where you can make a lot of stuff, you can create a lot of stuff, and you can even take pictures of it or save it. You can work with robots. It's a lot of fun in there, but the lines were always really long for little things, and it can get stressful as well. I would kind of compare Innovations to a real life video game, and I think a lot of kids are really bound to love it because it really does let you get really creative in the middle of a theme park, and I really don't know what could be better than that. But if you're an adult, Future World just doesn't really have much. I mean, the food is not good. I would honestly say it's probably the crappiest food in Disney World, which you can debate me on this if you'd like, but I think it is. But World Showcase for me is so much fun just because the atmosphere in every little country pavilion is so different. They are all nothing like the last one, but just as comfortable. My favorite would have to be Mexico Pavilion because it's not like the others. It is not based outdoors. It's in a giant building, and when you enter the building, you're in old Mexico. Except here, it's always night. So it'll put you under this false impression that it is nighttime out. But really, it's just that they've colored the ceiling to look like a nighttime scene. They even have a mock volcano from so far away, which looks like it's really erupting as you're eating your churros, which is fantastic. There's also a ride in there. It focuses on Donald Duck. It is a lot of fun. It's kind of like a smaller scale. It's a small world. It's very colorful. It takes you through the streets of Mexico. And I would say it's one of my favorite things to do. You go on a little boat and you just get to traverse the streets and sing songs with Donald Duck. So highly recommend that one. I don't think I could ever go to Epcot without doing that. And what's crazy is for a long time when I was little, I didn't even know about that ride. But now that I've seen it, it's like I'm so in love with it. I always want to go on it every time I visit Epcot. I have to see that ride. So another thing I want to mention is I haven't seen the Frozen ride yet, but there used to be a ride in Norway. It was all about trolls and the history of Norway. I believe it was called Maelstrom, and it was shut down recently. I loved it. That's an unpopular opinion. A lot of people get off this ride and they're like, what the fuck was the point of that? And while I do understand, I just love trolls. I really loved finding troll dolls in Disney World. That was just so much fun. I love all this cultural stuff that they have going on here. There's a little museum in Japan where you can look at even the history of Nintendo. Like, Disney World really, really hit it with this. I really love World Showcase. That's why I probably look forward to going to Epcot, is just to see all these different countries. So Future World is okay. The Figment ride is there, and the Figment ride is a lot of fun. But, like, when I'm thinking about it, I can't really think about anything I seriously have to do when I go to Future World. But World Showcase, like, there's so many things I have to do. Like, in addition, I always go to the Chinese puppet stand. I like to buy myself those little marionettes because they're just so much fun. There's something for everyone there. There's the Food and Wine Festival, and when that's going on, you can try all sorts of inexpensive food from all over the world. But Future World, it kind of just is what it is. And apart from maybe, well, Soarin' is a part of the land, which is off to the side, so I don't even know if I could say that. But apart from maybe like Test Track, which even then I'm like meh on, nothing too memorable there for me. World Showcase is absolutely amazing, and I think that's probably what earns Epcot its high placement on this list. So without any further ado, number one, pretty much everyone's number one, I'm gonna assume, is Magic Kingdom. So I used to make a joke that Walt Disney World was simply Magic Kingdom and its three bitches, and I kind of stand by this statement. I mean, Magic Kingdom is so vast, it's so full of rides and attractions, you're not going to run out of anything to do anytime soon. There is good food everywhere, and pretty much everywhere you eat in Magic Kingdom, I have never been disappointed. So it's really just all in all my favorite. This is split into 4 lands, or I think it's 4, it might be 5, let's see. It's split into a certain number of lands: Adventureland, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, Frontierland. But then you also have the side stuff like Liberty Square, and I just forgot Tomorrowland, I think. I'm not sure. There are lands, okay? And there's plenty of them, and they all have different themes. So Adventureland is more so like a pirate theme, a jungle type of theme. More so like digging treasure, though, than taking a trip through a safari like Animal Kingdom is. Frontierland is the Old West, and probably one of my favorites just because I have this thing with the Old West. I'm not sure. I love reading Southern Gothic books. I love being in that kind of atmosphere. I used to love Little House on the Prairie when I was younger. It's just something for me. I just have a spot for it. Fantasyland is what you would expect. It's the whole fairy tale, Peter Pan, other realms type princess situation. So pretty straightforward. Tomorrowland is a reflection of the future. It is pretty much similar to, I guess, Future World in Epcot, except it's much more, how do I say, fantasy-ish, fantasy inclined, like sci-fi fantasy type of thing. More focusing on the cosmos than technological advancements. So if I had to like narrow down my favorite thing to do in Magic Kingdom, it would be nearly impossible because there is so much stuff there that I love. So I don't really know how to do that. I'm going to probably have to narrow it down to what my favorite ride was, which was Splash Mountain. It's been taken down for renovations, as a lot of you know. That ride was very near and dear to my heart. I spent so much time on it. I used to go on it over and over again. It didn't matter how cold it was at night. When I had those extra magic hours, I was going right back on that thing over and over again. Although I do also really love Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is just a runaway train type situation. And of the mountains, Space Mountain probably is my least favorite. It's not that I don't like it, it's just really tame, and that's just not what I was expecting of it, I guess. Like, I was expecting more of a punch. It didn't really pack it, but I'll always have a soft spot for It's a Small World. I know that probably sucks to hear for a lot of people. Most people are really annoyed by that ride. They think the jingle is super annoying. While I understand where they're coming from, no it's not, and fuck you guys. It's a Small World is so cute and so fun. The Haunted Mansion, how could I forget? This is what I mean. There's so much stuff I love about Magic Kingdom that I could probably sit here and list every single thing in the park, and I would still keep going because I forgot certain things. Like, I really seriously love this place. It is like home to me. When I get off of the bus or the monorail and I hear the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme, I want to start crying. Like, it's beautiful there. It's absolutely magical, and there's fireworks every night. It's just pretty much the first thing that comes to mind when most people think Walt Disney World, and for good reason. It's their first park, and by far, in my opinion, the best park. So, that is it from me. If you are going to Disney World soon, I am so lethally jealous of you, it is not even funny, and I hope you'll check out some of these things I mentioned. Like I said before, I pretty much love every park and every part of Walt Disney World, but if I had to rank them, this is how I would do it. So, thank you for watching. As well as all my spooky stuff, I also love Disney. I always will. And I might make some more videos about that too. So if either of those things interest you, you should definitely hit the subscribe button. I'm not going to threaten to eat your firstborn this time, but I trust you to do the responsible thing. Thank you!